Hey guys, so the AFL Evolution 2 trailer is finally here, and in today's video we're going to go through it, break it down, go through a couple of different frames, and see what the new game has to offer. So a couple of things to notice just straight off the bat here is that, firstly, the siren sound. Now, I was someone who, when I first watched this video, I kind of thought that the siren was the same old one we've heard in, AFL Evo 1 and previous AFL games, but apparently other people have said that this is actually, an authentic siren sound. Whether that's kind of the authentic sound from the G or from, just in general, I don't know, but that's a positive sign. Perhaps maybe we're going to get individual siren sounds for each stadium in the game. I know that's something that a lot of you guys wanted to see in this game, and same for me as well. It just adds to the authenticity, so that's pretty cool if that's the case. We also get to see Razor Ray Chamberlain here in the game. Of course, last time around we had, I think it was Matty Nichols, the umpire, who was face scanned into the game for Evo 1. So this time around we got Razor Ray, who's, definitely probably the most well-known of the umpires. It's cool to have him in the game, even if his face does look a little creepy, but it's cool to have him in the game nonetheless. As we go to this next shot of Collingwood and Carlton coming out onto the ground at the MCG, and we get to see the banners in front of them. What's really cool, obviously, is as you can see, the banners actually have messages on them similar to what they would have in real life. Now, if you've watched Twisty's breakdown video of the trailer, he actually talked about his time working on the game and said that there is hundreds of messages that could appear on the game. So there should be an absolute ton of variety for the messages that kind of come up on there. Because obviously the big problem is, how repetitive will it be? You don't want the same message appearing after your second or third match in. So to have that much variety is going to be pretty exciting, and it just adds to the realism factor of the game, which is very cool. We get a wide shot here of the MCG to match during the day, and one thing that some people have pointed out I've seen is that if you look at the formation of the players now, I know that when you went into AFL Evo 1 and you went into all the kind of team tactics menu, there's a bunch of different kind of ways you can set up your team and formations and how they can move. But I'm not sure if you could actually change it like this, change how your team lines up at centre bounces. So here you can see we've got a centre bounce going on. It's still the kind of, 3 on each line kind of setup, but it is set up in a different way where you've got everyone kind of lined up down the corridor. So I can't remember if that was new to Evolution 2 or if that was in Evo 1, but I think it might be. Obviously we saw the day-night transition video they released ages ago, which we get a glimpse of here, actually showed player movement around the ground, and it looked much more realistic. It didn't look like previously in Evo 1 where everyone was kind of locked to a position more or less, and kind of glued to their opponent. It looked a lot more like players were moving around, and all the players were following the ball. So sometimes when the ball was inside forward 50, all the players would be locked in that one half of the ground, and it just looked a lot more realistic. I'm excited to see how that works in the real game, because that was a big complaint about the gameplay in Evo 1, was that it was just too basic, too much players locked into positions. So to have actual player movement like this, make it much more realistic, is very cool. This is one of the shots that really excited me in this trailer, which is kind of weird because it's just a warm-up shot, but whatever. We got Stephen May for the Ds warming up at a game. I think it's at the G as well. Now, obviously, what's really cool about this is obviously part of the pre-game, cutscenes and all that kind of stuff. You got players running around in the background, kicking the footy to each other, warming up as they do in the real game, which again is just a nice added detail to add to the realism and to the build-up and the anticipation before a game. Now, what this makes me wonder and makes me think about is player career mode. One of the things that I've always said about what I would like to see in a player career mode is getting to experience every aspect of the game from your player's point of view, right? So when you're playing player career, instead of, say, when the team's running out onto the ground, instead of it just being the same basic cutscene or anything like that, have it be so you experience from that third-person camera kind of perspective that you experience gameplay from. Because imagine how cool that would be, right? If your player, he's making his debut, big game, packed house at the MCG, it's his AFL debut, you've worked hard for your player to get there, and then you get to experience stuff like running out onto the ground and experience what that's like to actually come through the race, maybe even take part in the warm-ups like this. Just like in NBA 2K, how they do with their My Career mode, where before a game your player can go out onto the court and have some practice shots and all that kind of stuff. Not only does it add to the realism, but it also works as kind of getting your eye in and your timing in for your shots before that particular game. And you could do a similar thing here with AFL stuff, here with the warm-ups, practicing your skills, your passing, your kicking, your handballing, maybe lining up for goals, all those kind of things. So this makes me wonder, will we actually get to do that? And if so, that'd be really exciting. Either way, I think this is cool, just this little added warm-up cutscene thing is just a nice little touch. Here we've got a shot of Trent Cotchin delivering a pre-game or quarter-time message or whatever it may be. This is pretty much identical to the cutscene we see in Evo 1 at quarter-time and three-quarter-time. The big thing that's interesting to note about this, though, is that if you look around the circle of players, the majority of them seem to have face scans. Now, granted, I'm a Freo supporter, so I don't know the Richmond playing list inside and out like I do with Freo, but just looking around at these faces, the majority of them look face scanned. There are a couple players who look pretty generic, like there's one on the right who is standing next to Dusty, who looks kind of like a generic player model. For the most part, every one of these players looks face scanned, which is pretty impressive. And that's one of the things I noted in this trailer, is that pretty much all or most of the players you see in this trailer have a genuine face scan. Now, obviously, when they're putting together a trailer, they're going to put the best looking players in the spotlight, right? But it does make you wonder how many players have genuine face scans, and here it looks like a fair few get that treatment. We got this next shot here down at Blundstone Arena, and our first look at Blundstone Arena in action, first and foremost. But we got, I think it's Jack Zeeble taking a snapshot around the corner now. What's interesting about this is the first time I watched this, and maybe this is just me getting it wrong, but the first time I watched this, it looked like Jack Zeeble was kind of kicking a banana kick, kind of bending it around the corner, stuff like that, around the body sort of kick. In Evo 1, you couldn't really do it that much. And there's a few I'll go through here in this trailer where you get to see animations like that may hint that we can have a bit more freedom and flexibility with our round the corner kicks. This one kind of looks like, when you played Evo 1, you try to kick around the corner, around the body, and it felt clunky. I think you could do it if you press the right button combo, but it felt very clunky. The animation just looked like he was kicking a torp, and then it kind of bent around when he kicked it. Here it looks like they've maybe adjusted that, and that's a big plus because that was something that was missing from Evo 1 that just didn't work very well. So hopefully that's something they've added in this game, and it looks like they might have with this Jack Zeeble shot here. Now we get a whole ton of goal celebration animations. Some of them are the ones we saw in Evo 1, which is, they all look fine and good. But then we get some new ones, like we got Ratugalia for Geelong, I think it is, doing the one finger celebration, which I think looks really cool. That's a nice little addition there. We got some of the Carlton boys celebrating to the crowd. One of the things I love about a lot of these goal celebrations is that it gets the crowd involved. There's a lot of hype and pump up celebrations, which is great. This one here of Luke Shuey celebrating is particularly cool because it is, like I said, that one where he's getting involved with the crowd. In all previous AFL games, but in Evo 1 specifically, all the celebrations were very much kind of on the spot, just kind of self-contained. These ones are very cool because it gets, the crowd involved. Have the players interacting with the crowd just adds a level of realism and, makes it all feel a bit more realistic rather than the crowd feel just weirdly out of it and all that kind of stuff. So these new celebrations look really cool. They look really smooth as well, like a lot of the animations in this trailer, but it just adds a level of realism to see players celebrating with the crowd and all that kind of stuff. So it should be pretty cool to see some of these in the game. Another one of the things I really love here is we've got this shot of Toby Green as he does getting in the face of an opposition player, and he gets kind of shoved away, which is really cool because I don't think we haven't really seen that in AFL games where players get in each other's faces and there's a bit of push and shove and argy-bargy and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, back in the 90s with EA Sports games, we had actual fist fights, which obviously you could not do that now, unless you're the NHL games, which is they're kind of weirdly exempt from that. But in AFL games, we haven't really seen that. So this is a cool little thing. We see it a couple of times in this trailer. I think it just adds a nice little touch. Another one of these cutscenes. But it's cool to see the players getting in each other's face. And yeah, I really like this little cutscene or animation they've added to the game. Just see players getting in each other's face and interacting with one another. We got this shot of Dusty giving the old fend off. One of the things that's really interesting about this trailer, and that I see a lot throughout this trailer, is a lot of fend off and evade kind of animations. Now, I'll be honest, I was never very good at fending off and evading in AFL Evo 1, so I didn't do it that often. From what I can see in this trailer, it looks like there's a ton more kind of evade and fend off animations. Here we've got one with Dusty where he gives the old one-handed fend off. Later in the trailer we'll see a bunch of other ones and I'll try and point them out. It does look like there's a lot of different ways to fend off or evade or, get out of trouble kind of thing. So that's cool to see. Another shot I want to point out here is Adelaide Oval. We've got Port Adelaide and Geelong going head-to-head. Luke Dowhouse laying a big tackle. One of the things that looks new to me, and again, maybe this is just me forgetting how Evo 1 worked, one of the things that looks new here is this tackle animation, where it's actually like a genuine spin tackle that goes with the momentum of the player. In Evo 1, your tackling was very kind of straight line kind of stuff, like you would tackle the player and they would fall backwards. There wasn't really much variety in the tackle animations, but here it looks like a new tackle animation where you actually kind of spin tackle and stuff like that, which is very cool and adds to the detail. One of the things that I do want to point out as well is that for those of you who have seen that Wicked Witch are currently working on Rugby Challenge 4, which is a new rugby union game, one of the things that was at the end of their little teaser trailer for that game was a player kind of diving in for a try, and he's got two blokes kind of hanging off him in kind of like a gang tackle, something we've never seen in AFL games. So I wonder if that's carried across into this game as well, where you can have kind of two players tackling you, or players kind of hanging off you, maybe grabbing onto your jumper, just little details like that that just make the game feel more realistic than the basic tackling we've seen. And this is a positive sign here where we've got some new tackle animations that'll, I think, just make the game feel a little bit more realistic. I mentioned before with the Jack Zeeble kick where there's a lot more of these kind of kicks where you can kind of bend around the corner sort of thing. Here we've got Jamie Elliott at the SCG, and he's kind of on the run, kicking on an angle. Now, it's not really a banana kick necessarily or anything like that, but it is different to when you're playing Evo 1. If you're running on this angle and trying to kick the goal, you could kick the goal from that angle, but the animation itself felt very clunky. You know, you'd run in, you'd tell the guy to kick, and he'd basically almost kick it in a straight line or like on a slight diagonal. There wasn't really kicks around the corner, around the body on the run. You could do it, but the animations weren't really there for it, and it didn't look great. Here we're seeing Jamie Elliott really kick it around the corner on an angle on the run, and it just looks so much more realistic. And like I said, if that's added to the game, the flexibility of the movement of your player will be a lot better. And this is another positive sign of that, where we've got this kick hooking around the corner. Now again, I don't know if this was a set shot or a shot on the run or anything like that, but there's a real bend on the ball. One of the big things I'm interested in is what improvements have they made to set shots. Because in Evo 1, I think set shots, they had a good control scheme. I think using the stick to kind of flick back and flick forward with your kind of kicking movement, I think that's the right way to do it. I think that works really well. But use the stick, so it's like if I push down and then push forward but slightly to the left or slightly to the right, then the kick should kind of sway off in that direction. Not just based on which way is the wind going. Obviously that's part of it, but have the direction that I flick the stick affect it. We got a shot here of Charlie Cameron, I think it is, and the Brisbane boys celebrating a goal. It does make me think, and with all these goal celebrations we see in this trailer, it does make me think that, are these goal celebrations actually going to be based in context to the game? A big problem for AFL games is that the goal celebrations are never really tied to what's happening in the game. This one here with the Brisbane boys celebrating, they're pretty amped up, they're pretty hyped up, but we don't want to see this when they're 10 goals down in the last quarter with like 30 seconds left on the clock, right? So hopefully these celebrations make sense in the game. Another cool shot here, Patrick Cripps and Marcus Bontempelli. This is what I was talking about before with the range of different evade options. Here we've got one where he's kind of pushing Bontempelli down or away and holding the ball up over his head. We see this one animation, I think, twice in this trailer. And like I said, it's a range of different evades. But it does look like from this trailer that we're getting a lot more of those animations for fending off, evading, and all those kind of things. So the interesting question, I guess, is will that be a range of different button combos? If you want to evade in a certain way or fend off or whatever, or is it just generally like you press evade and if you time it right, then you do it successfully, but the animation changes depending on how you're being tackled and where the tackle is coming from and stuff like that, which in and of itself, that's pretty cool. This shot here, the Bulldogs and the Suns at Metricon. Sometimes in this trailer, this game just looks phenomenal, I think. Now, is it up there with NBA 2K and the likes of those? Probably not. I think it does look very good. It is the best looking AFL game we've got by a mile. A lot of people online giving this crap saying, oh, it looks like PS2 or PS3 graphics. That's just a dumb, unintelligent comment. If you're making that comment, you're just an idiot and you're trying to stir trouble. But at times, particularly at twilight when the sun's setting, this game can look really phenomenal, and I think it looks great. We get a look here at, I think this is Blundstone Arena again. At night, we see the scoreboard in the background now. Again, if you watch Twisty's breakdown video, he kind of heavily implied that we could be getting a scenario mode in the game, which is cool, I guess. I mean, I never really use scenario modes all that much in games, but it's a cool new feature that is added to this game, and a lot of people have a lot of fun with that, especially if you can create scenarios and then share them online using the fan hub and stuff like that, kind of like you can with players and teams. if you can share scenarios, a lot of people are going to have fun with that. Particularly with the new Guernsey creators and the custom team options we had from Evo 1, you could really create some fun kind of throwback missions and stuff like that. Again, we're talking a lot about fend-offs and evades and all that kind of stuff. And we see another one here with Dylan Shield, whose player model looks really good, like 100% accurate. It's one of those real good player models where he's been face scanned and it looks good. But this is another fend-off animation where it's kind of similar to the one Dusty did earlier on, where it's the one-handed push-off. Again, it's different. He's pushing off with a player in front of him and stepping back. Dusty was doing it to the side. So that in and of itself is I think anyway, is a massive improvement, because it's not just like fending off is this clunky kind of thing where you can only do it in certain angles or whatever. To think that you could fend off in any direction is really exciting, because like, imagine if you get surrounded by a pack of players and you can kind of fend off a couple of times before getting rid of the ball or getting tackled again. Now, obviously, we don't want it to look ridiculous where, you know, you're surrounded by 5 guys and just pushing off and fending off in every direction. I think that's going to add quite a bit to the gameplay. A couple of things I wanted to point out here. One was, if you see in the background on the left there, you've got Nathan Fife. It looks like the same player model from Evo 1, which is hopefully not the case. Anyone who played Evo 1 knows that Nathan Fife in that game looked like he'd run headfirst into a brick wall. We can't see close up here, so hopefully they've at least improved his face scan, because it needed to be improved. And the weird thing about that was in AFL Live 2, which obviously made, Nathan Fife was probably one of the best, most accurate looking player models in the game, right? And then when they got to Evolution, something happened where he got all weird and janky looking. So hopefully they've kind of rectified that. The other thing to point out here is that if you look in the background in the grandstands, you see that there are spectators standing in the aisleways, you know, in the stairs. They're actually standing there. Now, the question is, are they just kind of placed there, or will they actually move around? I remember getting really excited back in the day with NBA 2K, where they added like people in the crowd who would actually get up and kind of shimmy out of their seats and then walk up the stairs as if they were going to like take a piss or like, you know, go get a drink or something like that. It just adds a little bit of realism. But otherwise, that's about it, guys. That's about all the different little details I saw in this AFL Evo 2 trailer. Let me know down below if I missed anything or what you thought on some of the things that I pointed out. They have said that we will be getting gameplay soon. So I would expect next week sometime we'll get some kind of gameplay video, which will be interesting, because that's going to kind of be the be-all and end-all, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter how good the game looks, what the graphics are, what the game modes are. At the end of the day, it comes down to gameplay and the actual thing you're playing. So I think as much as a trailer can be a positive sign, this is a positive sign. And I think a lot of people online are kind of criticizing this game, and you know, you get the kind of comments. If you look on the Facebook post, you look on the social media posts, you get just unintelligent comments where they say, oh, graphics look like PS2, or, you know, they can't, usually people who are criticizing this game, at least on social media anyway, they can't give a kind of genuine, in-depth kind of analysis about why they think it doesn't look good. It's usually just, oh, the graphics don't look good. That's all they can say, which is just an unintelligent comment and doesn't really add anything. So I think this is a really good trailer. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully it won't be long until we get some gameplay footage, and hopefully that looks really good. I'm excited. But either way, let me know your thoughts, and until next time, see you guys later.